they're trying to get ahead. They know that FTC is coming. Google knows that FTC is coming for them. They can hold it off for as long as they have is kind of amazing to me. And I think that just another thing that they can say, look, this is what we're doing. This is how we're making our platform safer, as it were. And then they'll also have to deal with the the algorithm arguments that they're trying to bad stuff gets popular inside of there. But like you said, it's kind of too little too late when you're actually trying to actually really protect kids, and it's kind of beyond that point at this time. So
yeah, they missed the mark by about 10, 15 years.
yeah. Plus, have you ever gone to live streaming or gaming and listened to some of those kids talk? Man, they put me to shame. So
Well, yeah, and some of the streamers are so young. It's like, how on earth is Google getting away with this without parental release?
parental controls, yep.
You couldn't put a kid in a movie without that, but how is this different?
It's because they're a platform, not a publisher. Better tape the logo on the hat. I don't know. They won their last game. They did really well. So I think I'm going to keep it. If my black hat had the Seahawks logo on it, that'd be a win-win.
That can be arranged.
Exactly. Also to say, the 49ers, I can't believe how well they're doing this year. So that's pretty interesting. It's a shame because they're like the competition, but still they're doing pretty good. So I'll throw a shout out to the 49ers just because my wife hates them so much. Okay, let's see. SEO this week, episode 143. We're going to go over some local stuff, snippets, get a couple surveys, and a couple cool articles that will help you leverage some Google features for your SEO and your marketing overall. Just a quick note from the audience. Caleb said Brazil is waiting for Cora. So apparently you need to translate better or something. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. I'm working with some people. Hope to reach out to them today on that. So yeah.
That's going to be a project. I can't imagine.
Well, you have to partner. I mean, there's no way you can go into new, language and culture markets without having people that speak the language and know the culture.
Right.
Translation is not enough.
Even just translation of just your software, that's going to be a beast. You're essentially rewriting the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. Well,
supporting documents you got to recreate for the new language. And then you have to, after you release it, you're like, support. Who's going to support this? Because I don't speak Portuguese.
Yeah. And so, we'll have to look at that in the fullness of time. Initially, it's just going to be in English. And, I'm going to have to partner with people to do support in these other languages because I can't do it. And a lot of businesses are like, well, we're global. Well, what do you do when somebody calls on the phone that speaks Portuguese?
Microsoft Translate.
Yeah, that doesn't work. You'll learn to hate your life if you go through a translator.
Yeah, I can't imagine. That'd be horrible. Alrighty, let's see. We're lucky at OTT. We got some people in Venezuela, and so Spanish is covered. Guys in Israel, Hebrew's covered, and then there's just us American people who are stuck with English alone. So
yeah,
I'm trying to learn Spanish. I'm not very good at it. I can't order a beer yet. Una cerveza, por favor. It's about as close as I get to a conversation. But I'll get there one of these days.
And I know you're pretty modest, so I'll kind of poke you to see if you want to mention it or not. But do you want to talk about any recent changes in your life?
Oh, yeah. So if you guys don't know, I used to, or I am, and have been a member of the SIA, Search Intelligence Agency, since its inception when Dory and Kyle launched it. And I was a active enough community member inside of that platform that I was actually getting SIA for free from like month 3 on. And I appreciated that and that recognition. Well, this past the 13th, a couple of weeks ago, a week, 2 weeks ago, I had a meeting with Dory Friend, and as of yesterday, I'm officially a partner in the SIA now. So it's Dory and I, and we're looking forward to taking that to whole new levels. It's going to be pretty cool. Some of the things we're doing is moving off of Skype and into Slack. Thank God. We're going to knock that out. We are getting rid of the monthly webinars. So all the test results were released once a month, which kind of leaves you for the rest of the month to just your own devices. And we'll be releasing those weekly now as they're ready. And then I'll also be doing some implementation webinars and weekly Q&As and stuff like that too. So make sure that everyone gets some value out of that. And hopefully Bill will still be along to do his interviews with his podcast and stuff. Dory and Bill have some things to work out, but hopefully that continues. And then we'll also be offering courses and eventually software tools all under the SIA brand. So it kind of expand it out, build it some more, and get you guys a lot more value for what you're paying for. So I'm happy. It's a good gig.
Yeah, congratulations. That's a cool development.
It took me forever. Finally recognized for how great I am. All right, let's see. There it is. Yeah, I think it's good. I think SIA is, Kyle and Dory took that to where they could together, and it's a great thing, and that bore out other testing groups, as it were. And then you guys now have Internet Marketing Gold, which is a combination of you, Kyle, and Andrew's marketing power and skill set and testing and all that stuff to bring in those communities, that community too. So I think it'll be, I don't see those two as competition. I think they'll drive each other and create a situation where the SEO community has got some of the best tests and testers and results and actual real working methods, just because those two groups are working hand in hand to challenge each other and do the right thing for everybody. So I think it's awesome.
Well, I think groups testing things is kind of as old as the day is long.
Yeah.
And I think more of that is ultimately better for the SEO community.
Yep.
So it's an evolution of the community. It's not an evolution of just, one group.
Plus, I think to me, it's a greater opportunity to start doing what all testing, in my opinion, has been lacking, and that's peer-reviewed, peer-verified testing. So you guys see something, then we test it and we get the same result, or we get different results. We bounce back and forth to figure out what the real answer to that problem is. So
that's science. We all want our exclusive secrets, but exclusive secrets don't jive well with good science.
Yeah. I don't want exclusive secrets. I just want more money so I can pay off my bills and
live in an RV. Your science pays well.
It'll be awesome. Okay, let's see. All right, so here's the episode 143. You can see I'm actually testing something. In here is that I was always doing SEO this week, episode 143. Now, if you search for SEO this week, you'll note that the main page, this one here, is actually ranking number 1. That's good. It's the show page, but I was really not getting any of the internal pages ranked. They're indexed, and if you search for the long tail, sometimes they pop, sometimes they didn't. So I wanted to play with that title and see if it makes a difference. This week I'll have the episode up front, and you see the SEO week this week in the middle. Next week I'll take that SEO this week completely out. I want to see if Google's figuring out, using the URL strings, and maybe There's something going on there because I have that same title in all my pages that I could be doing with something of a was it a cannibalization issue? Just because I have SEO this week in all my slugs. So we'll see what happens out of that. It's a real life test. No value other than for me to get some more pages on the site ranked in the #1 position, even if it is for some long kill keywords, just to build some authority of the site. And that will carry over and ultimately help when I start doing some of the tests and testing on this site. You guys know that I do a lot of the real world stuff. I'm either doing it inside of the adult market, which is incredibly competitive, and there's no better way to know if something works than if it works in the adult market, other than probably payday loans, but I'm too scared to go into that and just too cheap, to be honest. But that having this site rank pages and pages get indexed better and crawled better will be very helpful. I've been talking about, and I'm finally getting started today, the surfer versus pop versus Cora test. Unfortunately, the surfer and pop pages will actually start off roughly in the same position, 11 and 13. But Cora, since it's to me, it's more advanced than both of those tools, and that's solely based on my opinion and because my opinion. So Ted Software starts off, his page is going to be like 34. So that seems fair. But what I'm going to do is actually write up the post. I'll link to it. Probably talk about it next week in SEO this week. Or if I get it all set up by tomorrow, I'll highlight it tomorrow on SEO Fight Club real quick for everybody. But I'll show the actual downloads of the reports, and then I'll show the changes that I made in regards to the downloads. And then we'll see which one provides is using the best math in their backends to provide the best front end recommendations. And then based on how I apply those, which is really the variable, technically I could ignore all the good stuff that one or all of them give me, and um, that'll be a little bit harder to say one is better than the other. So, but I'll go through and in full disclosure where I applied the changes and then what happens with the ranking. So. I think it'll be a good test for everybody just to see the difference of the tools. Again, I've used Pop, Cora, and Surfer SEO all since they first started, so it'll be pretty interesting, especially if it turns out that they all rank a page where I would like it in the top 3. And if they all do that, then I guess the Surfer is better than Pop, Pop's better than Cora, Cora is better than all of them. Argument is pretty null and void. It's really the operator that matters. So, which is that's been my contention all along in the first place. So we'll see how that goes. I'm looking forward to it. And then we're also testing, as I said before, in the SIA, we'll be testing a lot of software and carrying my tests from the software and link building software and all that stuff over in the SIA. So that's going to be pretty cool too and helpful, I think, especially if you are like me and lazy and don't like to do a whole lot of outreach. Then you can use software to build links if you do it the right way and be pretty safe. So, and with that, let's get on with the articles. The first one is localmarketinginstitute.com. And this is called Under the Hood with Blip Billboards. If you don't know what these are, it's basically the electronic billboards. Some of the bigger cities have more of these than the little ones. But it's billboard advertising in a digital age, and you can buy impressions based off of the time that your ad is showing, the length of time, etc. And you can get them pretty cheap overall compared to regular billboard advertising, which requires a crew to go out there, slap up the paper and glue it on, and you pay for a month and a location and a lot of other stuff. So Blip is kind of modernized that whole process. So this is a really good advertising opportunity, especially if you are in a local area and doing local business stuff. I recommend you at least visit it. It could result in a increase in phone calls and such, which is a part of your overall marketing campaign. You can drive website visits and or phone calls. So just remember that if you're going to try to do either one of those, you need to have a number that's a little bit more memorable. People are driving after all. So if you have a catchy use of your brand name or something like that, so that you can stick it in the top of mind, so when they get home, they can remember it. It'd probably be the best bet, which is why your branding and your SEO should be good, so that they search for your brand name and your clients pop up. So you got to kind of take that into account before you use billboards. I think, honestly, Ted, I was thinking about this and bouncing this around. I think even e-commerce sites could leverage billboards. Like if they're, for an example, Hover. I just bought a rowing machine by them, and it is typically $2,100. And they're doing a Black Friday sale at Best Buy for it was a little over $1,000 now. So they took $1,000 off on it, $1,100. And I think, to me, that Best Buy could actually leverage that by putting a Best Buy ad on a Blip billboard for that Hover sale, and it's easy to remember. Best Buy, get the Hover, $1,000 off. Have you guys, in your experience, has the marketing teams ever leveraged or tried to leverage billboards for that?
Well, I think their role in marketing is for broadly applicable promotions. And so if you have like time sensitive, broadly applicable promotions, then it's great. So free shipping sales, buy one, get ones, Black Friday deals, anything where it's kind of short duration, high volume push. Makes a lot of sense. It's really hard and not cost effective to try to do it with your whole catalog. Yeah. So it's typically what you're trying to move.
So I hear what you're saying correctly is, instead of focusing, like my example, that was pretty specific, but you can remember it. I don't know that it would work in like a redneck town versus a town that's really health conscious. But in your example, Best Buy could drive traffic to the website with the 50% off billboard offer for Black Friday kind of thing.
Yeah, it has to be compelling, and it has to be a good enough deal that people would want to remember it, and want to take action. And you have to have a lot of fear of missing out. So until Friday only, that those types of levers are really what would make billboards work. And, in the old school days, you couldn't really do that effectively because it was all paper and glue out by the highway.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's digital, so you can really set it up for a specific 4 days everywhere. And that's the key is, when you have shipping cutoffs for the holidays or limited inventory, so you have to cut the ads. You don't want the billboard out there for an additional week, pissing off your customers because they ran out of units. So yeah, these new digital internet-enabled billboards, great idea, but they're specifically promotional in nature if you want to get the most out of them.
Yeah, I was thinking kind of liking them to the press release. They're really, assuming that the press release is being seen. It's just getting your brand at top of mind.
Well, but it's eyeballs in front of consumers instead of eyeballs in front of content syndicators. So I would say it's more B2C than a press release would typically be.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, that's how I found my dentist. By golly, he's got billboards like in every section of this town. So yeah. They were asking me about SEO. I was like, dude, you're in Yuma. Everyone knows you because you have a billboard every 100 feet. I think you're good. Just one more note on that video right there. It actually walks through what billboard is, kind of the ordering process, how they actually charge for their impressions, all that other stuff. So Definitely check that out. Okay, this is Bill Schlossky. Is that how you say his name? Can you say it? Slosky. I think that's
I'm gonna do him the courtesy of not butchering it.
it. Not me. I just like butchering it. But it's SEO by the sea. And if you don't know who he is, and you should, he goes through, he finds all of these patents, and then talks about what he thinks they're about, and kind of breaks them down into somewhat readable English. Because if you ever try to read one of these, it's kind of a pain. Like Ted would get it, but I'm not a technical reader, and so I need guys like Bill to be able to translate a little bit. Even still, it's a little kind of hard to read this, but it's actually pretty interesting. So I'm just going to stick here. You can dig around in the rest of the article if you want to, but the basis crush of this patent is that Google will use your social, your email, your interaction with the web, your Google account, find your likes and dislikes, your user preferences. And then when you do a search, the patent says that Google will use that user specific knowledge graph, this is your likes, your dislikes, the way you lean, left, right, etc., to spit out a search result unique to you, which is pretty interesting. I think now here's kind of my thought process behind this, because I actually watched Madam President. I don't know if you've seen that show, but their last episode they were doing YouTube kind of parody, and the company was taking what you watch. In this case, it was some conspiracy theorist stuff, and since you watched it all the time, they show you nothing but conspiracy theory stuff to support your thought process, to support your arguments. If you're a Republican or a Democrat and you've ever tried to have a conversation with someone on the other side, you'll see how dug in people are these days and kind of close-minded, because they're always surrounded by stuff that is, they read more things that are in line with their thought system than we as people read things that are contradictory to it. So we don't actively go out and look for things to counteract our arguments in our own head. We look for stuff to support it, right? To me, that's what this is really going to be doing, is taking all those things that you talk about, email, social, etc., and applying them to search so that you get the biased stuff that you're more likely to click in regards to the search results, versus maybe what might actually be the real thing. So I think there's a play here to keep you on and keep the search results relevant to you and to how you think. So that may be good or maybe bad. So this is a pretty interesting patent. What do you think about that concept, Ted?
Well, yeah, I kind of agree with you. Like, I'm always annoyed by like partisan thinking, not just politically, but just on any issue or any space. Because if you just kind of religiously stick to an argument, you're not really thinking.
Yeah.
And you should want to hear people out and look at evidence and consider the implications of the evidence you're seeing. You should want to test things. You should want to understand truth, because there is truth. There are facts. There quite often are right and wrong answers. And with these patents, the problem with them is they're kind of all couched in legalese and protecting the novel part of an invention.
Right.
And that's what a patent is. It's not a recipe for how Google's using it. It is Google saying, I want to protect part of my business, so I'm making these claims, and these claims are my invention. So really, most of the patent you can kind of write off as like reference material. It's really the claims and the patent that you need to go through, because that's the part that Google is saying is a novel invention that they're trying to protect legally. And when you get into those, people think that, oh, it's very, academic and scientific. No, they're actually more couched in legalese. It's more like reading a contract from a lawyer, trying to figure out what they're saying and what they're holding to. There are some technical aspects because, they are written by engineers and lawyers who happen to also be engineers. That's what patent attorneys tend to be. But, in terms of this specific thing, predictions are really hard to do, especially with this kind of content. I used to look at past sales of products to try to figure out future sales. You know what I learned? Whatever you promote sells best. So, past performance is, in many cases, not really predictive of what's going to happen in the future. Especially with things like online retail and trends on the internet. And so I would say the practicality of this solution is probably very limited, just based on the nature of predictions.
Yeah.
So I'd have to see, where it's successful to really understand if there's something meaty there.
How much do you think, like in general, they put out a lot of these patents? People talk about patents and everything and claim that they're using it in the search results. How much do you think they actually do where it's like legitimately they're doing that? You know what I mean?
There are nuggets in these patents that are awesome. And those little nuggets that you pick up on can be a total gold mine. Like one of the things that Google had in their PageRank patent was that they were reducing all websites to a score between 0 and 1 that was a percentage of the links that point back to your website. Just understanding that Google liked ranking all websites in the world with values between 0 and 1 is important for understanding what your rank score actually is. What is the thing that Google's sorting descending to sort the websites? It's a value between 0 and 1. And the fact that it's all getting reduced down to that one floating point, high precision number, we know that their algorithms are reducing things down to that one coefficient, that one score. And so that's important because it affects how do we think about the algorithm. Can 2 matches in a heading, be equivalent to a match in a title? Is it a currency? Or does it behave like multi-column sort in Excel? These are things we can test, all based on understanding that Google mentioned in a patent that they reduce websites down to a score between 0 and 1.
0 and 1.
And so that, those little nuggets are something that you can really latch onto and test and investigate.
Do you think every SEO should be able to get into these patents and kind of pull out that thing that
I think that would be probably a big waste of time for most SEOs. Because the thing is, 90% of what you need to know is kind of common sense to all SEOs. I need backlinks, I need keywords and the content, and I need my headings to be appropriate, and I need the title to be appropriate, and I need unique content, and I need to have competitive metrics to what my competition has. So that's the 80% you really need to just get down. And then once you're in direct one-on-one competition with websites, then that other 10 or 20% gets a whole lot more important, because that's where advantage is once you have that 80% competitive parity.
Pretty cool.
So don't go after the 10%, advantage first. Go for, general parity initially.
And then if you have to, you go into this. That makes sense. Yeah. To me, I just could never get into reading them. I'll start reading them. I'll read the abstract and then maybe the first part of it, and then my eyes glaze over and I'm like, okay, this is boring. So
Well,
where's the YouTube videos? You know what I mean? So that's why I like guys like Bill who put these kind of posts together and analyze that and, tell me what's important in that thing. That's what I really want to know at the end of the
yeah,
day.
and you get people like me and Kyle and Lee and Joe and Ryan and Roman and all these people that end up taking these nuggets out of these patents and testing the living hell out of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, if you're not doing the testing, then I'd say go somewhere where people are doing the testing and find out what they learn.
All right. And on that, if you are not in internetmarketing.gold, you should join up. Ted has a testing software. They're getting ready to, if they have not already, open that testing section up. You'll get the specifications. I'm not sure on the plan of the software. I know there's some updates that have to be done from that, but you can join there and actually get specifications to test and start doing it yourself. And not only you can do it at a minimum just to verify the tests that those guys are putting out. I'm going to be using the same system in SIA. And if you're an SIA member, you see how, they typically do the test with the single variable template that Kyle Roof put together. So we're going to combine those two methodologies, and I think it's going to be super valuable. So check out internetmarketing.gold.
Thank you.
Let's see. A Street Fight new Brandify survey reveals consumer health and local search. This is pretty interesting stuff, and really, it's kind of how are people finding local businesses? And typically, what the survey said is 70% of people are using Google Maps. And then there's Facebook, Yelp, and the website. So this is interesting to me because I actually use maps for local. That's how I start off. Organic. If the organic isn't blasted with the Yelps, the Home Advisors, and the Angie's List, I'll go to page 2. But you can typically avoid a lot of that if you use Google Maps. And I think that's what you can see here is the people who are using it. In conjunction with that, there is another survey. I think we talked about it, Ted, probably 2 months ago, where people were going to maps. They're finding the businesses and then instead of buying right off the maps, they're going to the website and check that out. So you can kind of add the power of those two together. You should have your map and your website optimized really well and leverage those. Occasionally I see some people talk about how they got business off of Yelp and stuff, but really I personally don't use it. And I can't remember the last time I found a local business on Facebook. Ted, when's the last time you found a local business on Facebook? Outside of an ad that was kind of interruption advertising, you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting, but like intentionally going there and looking for a local search, a local business.
Yeah, there are so many things that are just changing in the world, like all right in this space, and it's profound how much change has happened. So it went from the web is for global businesses. Well, now the vast majority of SEO work is in local SEO, and now that national and global SEO is kind of the minority of SEO work, and the vast numbers out there are people trying to rank businesses locally. And so it's absolutely huge. And at the same time, we went from a culture where the Gap would need a Super Bowl commercial to get people into local stores. Well, now that's not true. Now they need to be in a map pack for being nearby to people who need the nearest Gap store.
Yeah.
So there's this big shift from this old school Madison Avenue marketing to this new agile local search and in proximity mentality. I mean, times have really changed and quickly.
Yeah.
And so I kind of expect things to continue evolving. And so, the question of, does the Gap now need to invest in a Super Bowl commercial, or do they need to invest in local at a national scale? And same millions, but what's going to yield better dollars?
Right.
No, and it's really hard to tell. You got to be in that hot seat to have that info.
Let's see what else is in here. How often do you look up local businesses? Multiple times a week. Restaurants is the number one thing people are searching for, which is pretty, that kind of makes sense to me, especially when you couple with this search result here. 81% of consumers prefer to use smartphone for the local search. Remember that comment? 81% of consumers prefer to use a smartphone for local search. Remember that, because it's going to become important. And then they're looking for restaurants. So I'm out driving around. I'm doing local. I want to find some place to eat that's close. Okay, then let's go to maps. That makes sense. If you put both of those together, and then some information that people are looking up. Basically, this tells you what is really important to your consumers, and how you should be focusing on stuff. Not so much photos and videos, but maybe you'll put a little bit more attention to your reviews, but then make sure that your hours of operation are correct. Nothing more frustrating for somebody to call a business and it's closed when the map says that they're open. It's a guaranteed way to never get a phone call back. So something to keep in mind. And back up to here, there's 81% of consumers prefer to use social or local search. This is probably interesting because there's another study that says 60% prefer to use PC to smartphone for circle search. So that's there's a big difference there. So what to me, I think the value in that is knowing that the search or these kind of surveys target a small segment of audience, typically under in this case here it's 500 people, and you can take 1,000 people, divide them in half, and get different sets of results. So take these with a grain of salt, but they are definitely some decent stuff. To me, this one kind of makes more sense to me. I do some local stuff with maps, but as I'm going somewhere, like the restaurant example, that makes perfect sense to me. But if I'm looking for a landscaper, a plumber, or electrician, I'll sit down behind my computer, open up maps, and find that stuff, and click around a little bit before I actually make a decision on that. So
yeah, these tests can swing wildly based on the audience and time of day. So if you ask 500 people in New York during business hours, that PC percentage is going to be way higher. If you survey 500 people in New York after business hours, the mobile's going to swing way higher.
Yeah, because they're walking home, all that kind of stuff. The different factors of their time of day, blah blah blah. So
so a lot of variables can swing these.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's pretty interesting. And I think if you take some of that information, you can probably turn it into a decent sales pitch. So that is where the value of this is, especially if you're still pitching to clients and trying to extend or push an agenda in your campaign where you want to hit maps, you want to hit desktop. This is why you want to do both of those things. This is why you need video. You can find surveys and stuff to all support that. And drive you a little bit better. So keep these on the bookmarks list, or copy down some of the stuff, or go directly to the source here and get some better imaging, because this one is kind of blurry. This is from Ignite Visibility. Those guys always do decent surveys, so check that out. All right, so the next two stories are on how to leverage some Google functions. And the first one here is Ann Smarty. And this is from August, and it was last updated August 26th, but still pretty good. Is how to make Google search snippets more clickable. And I found this interesting because a lot of people are driving to take over the feature snippet. Everyone wants it. It kind of makes our egos feel better. And the theory is you're going to get more search traffic, more exposure if you have the snippet, which may or may not be true. I have pages that drop in and out of the snippet, and I see a nice steady line of traffic straight across all the time. So, but that said, there's some things that you can do to actually increase the CTR of those. And one that everyone should be doing, in my opinion, especially if you're doing a little bit of long form content, is enable the table of contents. With those enabled, you can see that the jump twos are on the page now when they capture the snippet. And this is in the people also ask section. And there's mini site links. Those you can actually drive with schema if you if you tell Google. And most times, depending on the search, is really what I notice when these show up or not. But you want to leverage that if you can have them get some site links going on in there. And there's a bunch more things you can do, bolds, etc. So check out this post. It's really cool, really good, especially if you're already good at capturing these feature snippets in your market, then you might as well work on CTR at the same time. Google Jobs. If you notice, like Indeed and all those other sites were getting a really good market share of traffic inside of Google. Google's not dumb, so they said, "Oh, that market's doing really well, so let's go steal some of their money." And what they did is they created Google Jobs under the guise of helping you out and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, they're taking over a portion or a segment of the market, which is jobs listing sites, and they're going to figure out a way to monetize it. Right now, they don't do too much of monetization, but it's coming. Google doesn't do anything for free out of the kindness of their heart. So monetization, paid ads to boost your job listings and all that stuff, it's coming. But in the meantime, you can actually set up and start doing your own job postings on your websites, implementing the job posting schema and then submitting that to Google and then leveraging that portion. One thing I will warn you or advise you not to do is don't go out there and make a whole bunch of fake jobs. You will get caught eventually, and they will inevitably post get you a manual penalty.
Well, that sucks because so many big corporations have fake jobs. Like I see them at Google and at Microsoft and at Yahoo. They're perpetually posted but never filled.
Never filled.
And especially when corporations get into a state where they can't hire, but they don't want to pull the postings because it negatively impacts shareholder value. Right. Those are fake jobs.
Fake jobs. And which, if you and I do it, we're going to get in trouble. They're going to use that as a penalty for us because we're the big, bad, evil SEOs, right? Or if they do it, they're just doing it to make sure that they have a list of qualified candidates to go to when we do have to fill those positions. So that's how you should approach these on your websites. If you're an SEO company, have SEOs on there, marketing directors, web design, web development, graphics designers, Adobe Illustrator professionals, all of that stuff. You can create all of those on your job thing, on your job listing, logo designers, etc. And what you will get is the rankings. You apply those into Google Jobs and forward that stuff off. You will get a qualified set of lists and stuff, but just don't do it like start putting dentists and all that other crap so you can create links and stuff for that. You know what I mean? So just use it smartly if you're going to do it. And then you can also start doing expired job listings and stuff like that, and just kind of push that off and do some pretty cool stuff with it. So be responsible. Even if you're not hiring, have that stuff out there. And maybe you get lucky and you find the golden gem who lives really close to you, that is looking for a part-time gig and is like a stupid, crazy good web designer or web developer. There's a benefit outside of just backlinking or internal links and added rankings. So I would try that out.
Well, and be careful too. If you put up a job posting, you might get a flood of emails and calls. And are you prepared to handle that?
Yeah, that's true. Well, a lot of that you can kind of take care of inside of your job posting to get rid of that. by doing special instructions. You can actually turn that into a CTR engine for you. So, what's his name? E-Rock. He did something like that where he was putting listings out on like Indeed, and then the instructions actually turned into auto suggest manipulation because he was making them go out and type things and find specific pages and stuff. And then that whole process he put in place was enabling him to manipulate the auto suggest. So there's, you can be creative with job listings. So
clever and as black hat as that is, I strongly encourage people not to do that. I think it's cruel to play with people who are unemployed. And so that's one area I don't even want to dabble in, because if you've ever been unemployed, the last thing you want to do is get suckered into a CTR trick.
Yeah.
That's not a good use of unemployed time. So I would, even though that works, I would encourage people to, morally not do that.
Yeah. I think I won't defend him. Like, I've set up a couple of them to see how it works, and it was all right. But I think your better play is leveraging the schema and setting up the Google listings on your site and getting into Google Jobs. Will you get phone calls? I think so, especially if you rank it really well, if you do everything that Google Jobs wants, etc. But like I said, it might turn into finding that one golden gem. And if anyone's ever hired, they know how hard it is to find people that can actually do what they say they can do. So, if you're a web developer in Yuma, Arizona, come find me. All right, and then this is the last one. This is from Active Campaign: How to Write a High Converting Landing Page. This is really good. A lot of the posts that they put out are actually, 500 words, blah blah blah. This is why you should do this one thing. This one will walk you through the exact framework that they use to create landing pages and help you build your own. If you're like me, you're gonna launch this new software, launch a new course, you need to know how to mess with this landing page stuff. So walk through, look at the tips and stuff, go to the other resources, see some of the resources from the people that they put together. This one is copywriting course is actually pretty good. And start designing and testing landing pages. And when I say designing and testing, you want to create different variations. Like you have this variation versus this variation, and you throw those two in the PPC and which one converts better. And then you start changing the other model and tinkering around. Is this thing better up here? This one right there? And you can play with those. You can get lost in the testing, but at some point you're going to find the perfect, as it were, conversion. You want to go ahead and launch that. So I would go ahead and check out this post. Is really, really good. And if you're not studying copywriting as an SEO, I think it's one of the things that you should be able to do these days. In particular, not because you want to be able to write good landing pages or do copy, but because it helps you write your headlines. It helps you write your social stuff. It helps you write your title tags and your meta descriptions to get click-through rate, etc. So get on the road. If you're not on it yet, get on the road to learning copywriting, at least as a skill to have in your tool bag. And this post here really is a good place to start. So I'll check it out.
Yeah, CRO people often really take a dig at SEO. And I usually feel that that's misplaced, but I understand it because there's often this overemphasis on the SEO side of the equation. And what I think everyone needs to know is that SEO is the input, one of several inputs into CRO.
Yeah.
And so SEO delivers traffic to a website. CRO delivers conversions once, from that traffic. And so traffic can come from, direct, referral, email, social, advertising campaigns, offline campaigns. Those inputs to CRO can come from many places, but when I see CRO people attacking SEO, they're kind of attacking one of their inputs that they can work with. And really, they're synergistic. And as a business, you don't want to overinvest in SEO. You want to diversify those inputs into your conversion funnel. And then CRO, you don't want to neglect it either. You want to optimize getting the best conversions from the traffic you have.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, I know SEOs who screw with CROs. So you change my optimization. Look, it doesn't rank any higher, blah, blah, blah. So that argument does go both ways when at the end of the day, I think they should be working together. That's something that we do. We let the CRO and the branding and guys, they do all that design and stuff, implement everything that they want, and then we'll go back and optimize what they did without changing the basic core of their CRO optimization stuff. Occasionally we have to change like a title, a heading, or something like that. But for the most part, I think that being able to do, like you said, is work together versus working separately. You can leverage you can an SEO can a good SEO can leverage CRO data to rank for better terms, and a good CRO will be able to use that SEO data to target better markets. So I think it kind of works hand in hand.
Yeah, at a fundamental level, SEO is for getting traffic from algorithms, and CRO is getting sales from humans.
Yeah.
And you need both.
Yep, for sure. All right, that is it. SEO this week, episode 143. Bye. Nah, I'm just kidding. So, if you guys have any other questions for us on the topics, that would be great. In the meantime, as always, this is the time where I hit up Ted and say, what are we talking tomorrow on SEO Fight Club?
Well, tomorrow we're talking about a lot of Black Friday specials that are going on. And we're going to take a look at some of the experiments that have been posted in the new single variable testing section of IMG. And it's going to be cool. It's going to be a neat thing. There's going to be a bunch of deals, and there's going to be a bunch of research we talk about.
Nice.
And so exciting times.
Cool.
Oh,
let's see. Questions in the chat. Any chance of getting access to the Google backlink Excel sheet you mentioned in the rules ranking group? Probably little to none. So I found that. Yeah, I found that on someone else's website. You can look around, you can search, and it'll take some time, but I'm sure you'll find it somewhere else. And then I actually reverse engineered everything that they were doing and created that for myself. I've talked to a couple of the people inside of that chat, and they're using some of the Google stuff that you saw. In case people don't know, someone shared in the really rankings Facebook group a screenshot from Moz showing some links that were generated using an exploit. And they were on Google. So what? And it's not just Google that has this particular exploit. There are tons of other sites. So in this particular thread, I know two people that spent hours and hours and hours building this repository of links. Mine's nowhere nearly as big, but it's the one that I want to use it. But these guys have like 30,000 links in theirs. And they're using that and leveraging it out. So I will tell you that first, some of those guys have no problem sharing it, but they won't share you their whole list. And others don't want to share it just because it takes a lot of time, money, and resources to put that together. And then once you have it, actually using it probably takes all of the time it takes Excel to do a find and replace. So to go off and to say, hey, I'm going to hand out that work to anyone is not going to happen. I wouldn't even sell it because it's, those guys just put a lot of effort into it. I don't have a full one, and I haven't used that particular link building method for quite some time beyond the Google stuff. And I will tell you that as I tested some of those link types and it didn't move the needle one way or the other. However, with a little creative use of traffic, I was able to turn those Google ones into something really really good. So, yeah. So, I would. That's what I tell you, DJ, is go find a site that's using those and just reverse engineer it. Honestly, it took me probably half a day to do it. It won't take you that long, and then you're gonna have to use your imagination to figure out how to make them actually matter. And that's really the key. So just having that list is only 1/3 of the battle, if that. It's leveraging and what to do with those afterwards. It's that makes them worthwhile. Let's see, Susie chatting it up today. She says she agrees with you, Ted, on everything you talk about because you're awesome, and that you can read her mind, which is kind of scary. Let's see.
Now, enthusiasm is a good thing. You know, life is better when everyone has more of it.
Yep. And then I'll close it out with a great comment for Lee when we were talking about using user knowledge graph. And Lee says that he thinks it highlights the need to base your marketing efforts around user avatars and personas, and really understand their thinking, so your messaging, tone, placement, etc., is on point. And I think that's a valuable lesson not only for SEO but for all marketing. You can have your standard customer avatar. I have ours. Mine is John. John is he's a father of 3, married. He's got a small business. He's built it up, but now he wants to expand. He has no idea how to leverage digital marketing, and he's got a small to medium sized budget, and he's ready to go. So there's my avatar.
Exploring the kinds of information and its placement on the page when you look at like publicly traded retailers, when you look at their product pages, that is how you kind of reverse engineer what those businesses are doing with marketing personas.
Yep.
And there's a lot you can learn.
You're right. And then there's different personas. There's the professional, the early adopter, et cetera. And you target them differently too. Yeah, I think Lee hit it right on. If you know that stuff, not only in SEO, but in marketing in general, you're going to be way ahead of the curve. You will be in the top 1% of marketers. So I would definitely encourage to learn more about that, learn more how to leverage avatars and personas, and carry on that tradition of great marketing. And let's see what is going on here. All right, that looks like that's it. Let's see.
Well, there's a question about launching 150 exact match domains. When I did projects like that, I would try to template them all in PHP so that there's just a configuration script that you would update for each domain. And so if you can make it that way so that you're just creating those configuration scripts and then copying folders with them, makes it a lot easier to deal with that.
You're talking like something like using Git to do all your changes, and then it pushes out to, like Jekyll does. Jekyll, you create a site with Git, and then you can do that to 1 or 100 sites, and then update the Git file, and then the Jekyll knows to pull through and
So you basically want to you want to abstract everything that's unique to each site and get it into a configuration, and that way you can just really cookie cutter them once you're set up.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Yeah, that's probably what I would do if I was launching that many sites. So, which we're getting ready to. So I'm sitting on probably about that many locksmith domains. So we're getting ready to launch a whole network on that. So cool. Alrighty. Well, everyone, thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow at 12 11
11.
Pacific Standard Time, 12 Mountain Time. That's my time, Arizona time, the only time that matters. And then Kyle should be with us. I think he's back from Germany, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, it'll be a great episode. Black Friday deals from far and wide. I know Andrew put together a whole list, and he reached out to pretty much anyone. If you have a Black Friday deal, let us know, and we'll highlight it for you. So that was really cool community service, and I think it's going to be a great show. In the meantime,
congratulations again to Clint and SIA. That's a big deal.
Yeah, thank you very much, and looking forward to growing that one pretty big too. So, and with that, everyone, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.